Hey guys, it's Nick from Long Island Wargaming to bring you another battle report. We're going to do 1500 points, 8th edition rules, 2011 Tomb Kings book versus 2012 Empire book. I just got a new Tomb Kings army off of eBay, so I'm going to be testing them out. This is my first game. Alright, so for my army, I had a High Lich Priest, level 4, he was the Hierophant, Battle Standard Bearer, Herald with a halberd, and a Tomb Prince as my general with a flail. For my units, I had 2 units of skeletons, 2 units of archer cavalry, 10 archers, I had 3 chariots, I had a unit of tomb guard, and a casket of souls. My High Lich Priest ended up with Incantation of Desert Wind, that's the signature augment movement spell, the Incantation of Cursed Blades, that's the killing blow augments, Incantation of Protection, that's the 5+ ward save, and Incantation of Vengeance, which is the minus toughness, minus strength spell. Again, we're going to see Rich's Empire on the battlefield. Since the Tomb Kings are a pretty heavy unit for heroes, they rely on their heroes a lot from what I understand. Rich brought 5 heroes to counter that, 3 of them which were witch hunters, so he was gunning for each one of my heroes.
He brought a level 4 Shadow Wizard.
Ended up with Mystifying Miasma, the Withering, Pit of Shades, and Occam's Mind Razor. He brought 3 Demigryphs. He had a Horde of Spearmen, the Hurricanum, which is that high elf chariot that's proxied in the back there. He definitely did not bring that Sphinx. That is the actual terrain Sphinx, so to clarify, that is a piece of terrain. So do keep that in mind during the rest of this game. He had great swords with a detachment of swordsmen and a detachment of Free Company, which are staking out that building right there. Alright, so for my deployment, I put my Casket of Souls behind that cardboard river. My Archer Cavalry, I scouted them. This is a pretty interesting unit after reading up on them. They have Scout and Vanguard. So you can scout them before the game begins, and then before the game begins you can also move them up to 12 inches, of course, staying out of range of 12-inch enemy. I wasn't able to move him up as far as I wanted to because since he deployed in that building, he was able to take up some extra space, so I wasn't able to move them as close to the cannon as I would like. However, they are in the best placement because the cannon is blocked. The Casket of Souls, his line of sight is blocked, so the cannon can't initially shoot at it as long as that cavalry is there. I put my 3 chariots right there. I put them over there far away from the Demigryphs, so I didn't want to really deal with them, taking them out early. The skeletons, the tomb guard, more skeletons, and then the skeleton archers. My Tomb Prince ended up in the Spearman unit. Hopefully his fail will help with the Demigryphs if he gets in combat with them. And then the Herald and Lich Priest are in the Tomb Guard unit. Alright, so for my turn 1, as you can see here on the right, I moved up my cavalry. I moved the chariots up full. A little nervous about that forest there. I know I had to put them there because of the Demigryphs. However, I'll take my chances with the forest. Everything else is just shuffled up a little bit. During my magic phase, I tried to get off the movement spell. I did get it off, but he did scroll it. And then I gave my units in that 12-inch radius a 5+ ward save. So for my shooting, the bowman shot at the spearmen, the chariot shot at the swordsmen, and the fast cavalry were shooting at the Free Company in the building. They're pretty good. I mean, they were shooting through a forest and into a hardcover building, and they were still hitting on 5s because the arrows of Aths, which is pretty cool because they always use their ballistic skill with no modifiers, so it's always good to get those shots off. I did end up killing a couple guys here and there.
Alright, so for Richie's turn 1, he didn't do too much moving, he just did some positioning. He moved the Demigryphs up, and then the Free Company exited the building, kind of block marching my guys so I can't get to the cannon for a charge. So for his magic phase, he did Pit of Shades, the large template. Unfortunately, he killed a whole bunch of skeletons and a bunch of Tomb Guard doing that. And then he also got off Mystifying Miasma on the Tomb Guard. Now being at -2 movement, especially since they can't march, they're not going anywhere. During Richie's shooting phase, he did take a grape shot at my cavalry. might be considered a mistake, because now that he actually killed one, there was enough room for me to get through on my next turn for a charge. So we'll see how that goes.
Alright, so for my turn 2, I did issue 2 charges. The Cavalry Archers did issue a charge on the Great Cannon. They needed Snake Eyes because they've got plenty of movement. And they took a big risk with the Chariots. They needed a 9, as you can see there, to get to the Great Swords. I knew if I could make it in, I mean, that wasn't a hard rule to do, especially with the Swift Stride. And with the 3 Chariots, I would be able to get in a front charge on both units, as you can see there. I was able to get a successful charge. However, when I did roll for my dangerous terrain tests, one of them did roll a 1, and it did take 3 wounds, so I lost one of the Chariots, now letting him react as a flank charge onto the Chariot's flank, which kind of really hurt me. For my magic phase, I kind of really needed to get some spells off here, which I did plan on doing. I did roll pretty good for Winds of Magic. I wanted to get that Chariot back, so I did Cursed Blades, and he did dispel it, so I wasn't able to get that Chariot back, which really stinks. And then I tried going for Incantation of Vengeance on the Great Swords, especially with their high strength. With the great weapons, I would be able to knock them down, and then with the lowered toughness, it would be even easier to wound them. However, he double 6 dispels that too, so it was kind of a fail magic phase, especially when I needed it. So let's move on to combat. My impact hits did pretty good. I was able to kill a bunch of great swords and a couple swordsmen, but unfortunately that flank charge for combat res and those extra attacks really did not help me. It was the gamble I was willing to take, but unfortunately I did get messed up pretty bad here. So due to combat res, they all did die. The Archer Cavalry inflicted no wounds on the Great Cannon crew. Instead, the crew did 2 wounds back, causing me to lose combat by 1, so 1 more guy drops, and I'm left with 1 cavalry unit. Alright, so for Rich's turn 2, he did issue a charge with his swordsman onto the skeleton unit, who required a 7 to get there, and he did make it. He also just moved the Demigryph up, the Spearman and everything else just kind of shuffled up a little bit. During his magic phase, he did Irresistible Force Withering onto the Spearmen that are in combat. So they are at now -2 toughness, which will be a little tough for me to stay alive, but he is going to kill them, and he also does have that hero, one of the witch hunters in that unit of swordsmen, that detachment. The great thing for me is he did roll a miscast, the one that with the large round template strength 10 hits, so he does kill a good chunk of his guys. I know it was at least over 10, so he did do a lot of damage to himself, so that was a pretty successful magic phase for me too. For combat, the skeleton cavalry actually killed 2 guys, the horse and the rider both killed a guy. So I won combat. He did fail his test, so I got the machine there.
The Witch Hunter and the Swordsman were only able to kill off 2 skeletons. I think I killed 1 or 2 swordsmen back. So we stood there for this turn. Alright, so for my turn 3, I did issue a charge and needed Snake Eyes to get to the Demigryph. I didn't do a fighting charge onto the detachment of swordsmen. I mean, really wasn't worth it. I would expose my flank, my Tomb Guard flank, to the horde of spearmen, but also, if he did stay, I mean, he's within range of the great swords, which does give the detachment stubborn also, so I mean, I really didn't want to deal with that. Even if I didn't kill all the guys, there was a good chance he'd probably just stay there, so I wasn't going to take a chance on that. Since my skeleton unit are suffering from Wither, they're minus toughness and minus strength, so I did get off my ward save area effect spell to help in both combats. Against the Demigryphs, I do 1 wound, and against the swordsman, I also do a wound. And then both units, I believe, lost 1 skeleton each due to unstable.
Alright, so for Richie's turn 3, he issued a charge with his free company and failed. That charge was on my fast cavalry. He just shuffles up his units a little bit. Rich does successfully cast Occam's Mind Razor on the Demigryph, so they now are attacking with Strength 8 attacks, which is pretty rough. He does grind down both skeleton units again, however, during my magic phases I just keep bringing a lot of them back with my spells, so I have been getting off the 5+ ward spells consistently, so that does make it even harder to grind them down in both his and my turn. Alright, so for my turn 4, I actually failed my Frenzy test. My Tomb Guard had Frenzy due to the Tower of Blood. I failed the test, and the reroll I failed also with the BSB. So I did have to issue a charge. I did issue a charge on the Great Swords. I might have needed to issue them on the free company. I don't know if that would have made a difference. I might have still been stuck there exposing my flanks since they have been stubborn, and they've been doing a pretty good job of staying alive. But I figured I would take my chance with the Great Swords. I think as I was playing with a new army, I also kind of just disregarded all the other rules I possibly knew about every other army, so I forgot that the Great Swords were stubborn, so I was going to stay there anyway, whether I, did a lot of damage or not, so... The fast cavalry just, kept shooting at the free company. And then in the combat phase, I was able to kill a bunch of the Great Swords. He killed a couple of the Tomb Guard. I did have my 5+ ward save up for my spell during the magic phase. But however, I was not able to break them due to the stubborn special rule. So that might have been a pretty critical mistake on my behalf. Before I did the Tomb Guard, I actually did the skeletons to their right. I was hoping to be able to kill them and overrun in for a flank charge. However, since one guy remained in the unit, they were stubborn. So there was the one guy and the Witch Hunter. So I was not able to break them. And then the Occam's Mind Razor Demigryphs were pretty much crushing some of my skeletons. So, but they did not break. Because they can't break, they only take a couple wounds from their unstable.
So Rich's turn 4, he makes some charges that look like he's gonna, sail off the game. He takes the Hurricanum, flank charges the remaining skeletons that are fighting the Demigryph, and then the flank charge with the Spearman. He was able to get off Occam's Mind Razor on the Spearman, which was a real pain in the butt. However, I did get my ward save off last turn, so I do have my Tomb Guard with a weapon with a 5+ ward save. So there is a lot of fighting going on there. Both sides take a bunch of hits. I am able to kill off a couple more of the Great Swords. So I do not lose enough guys to completely disappear. So what I do is, however, reform to face the front of the Spearman. My skeletons to the right were finally able to kill the remaining one swordsman. So his Witch Hunter did flee and run, so he fled right back over there so I can finish him off with my fast cavalry. I did take a leadership test to stay, and I did reform just to be able to make sure I have line of sight on the Great Swords, so next turn I can flank charge them. The other skeletons were destroyed by the Demigryph and the Hurricanum. I was able to finish off one Demigryph with the Lord, however. Alright, so for my turn 5, my charges, I did issue a charge to run down that Witch Hunter, and then I did have my flank charge on the Great Swords with the skeletons. Skeleton archers took a couple shots here and there. They weren't really going to be doing anything more at this point in the game. During the magic phase, however, I did get off 2 spells. I got off the ward save and the 5+ ward save, and I did get off the Killing Blow spell. So this allowed me for both spells to regen a bunch of guys. And then also now the Tomb Guard have a 5/6 killing blow. So I figured during combat I would use this opportunity to try to kill off some heroes. He does have 4 heroes in this combat. He has his level 4 caster, who's actually hiding in a corner of the unit, so he's not touching any of my models. But he does have 2 witch hunters and his BSB in combat. So with the herald and the rest of the tomb guard, I tried to killing blow or just try to do some damage, but unfortunately I wasn't able to do anything. My entire unit whiffed. I was able to kill all but 1 great sword. So again, now he's stubborn because that one guy is there. Even with my combat res and my ranks and whatnot, really didn't help me. So for Rich's turn 5, he pretty much sealed the deal with another charge from the Hurricanum. He did get Occam's Mindrazor off again on the Spearman. I was not able to dispel it, so it was pretty much just a slaughterfest from in on out. So Rich did claim the victory on this game. So the Empire were successful. But I really wasn't looking at this as a super competitive game. I was just kind of curious of getting an idea of how the Tomb Kings work. I'm pretty sure if I didn't throw the 150 points away in the beginning of the game with the chariots, I might have done a little bit better. I'm still trying to figure out how to use them. I mean, they're pretty expensive when you look at it. They're 55 points each. I mean, ranking them up is cool because you get extra strength bonuses when you charge, but maybe charging to the forest probably wasn't the best idea. But I think next game I'm probably going to fool around with some of the bigger monstrous cavalry units that they have, the Necrosphinx and the War Sphinx. So he only had 1 cannon this game. I was kind of expecting at least 1 or more, so that's why I didn't bring anything big, because it's just so easy to bring down with the cannon. I mean, I never really commented either on the Casket of Souls. That thing is pretty cool. I mean, he had so many heroes, so his leadership was high, so I never really used the bounce spell more than once in this game. Really, it was just there to generate some extra power dice. I mean, I got a bunch of those 5+ ward saves off, so that was pretty helpful in keeping my skeletons alive, and also regenning everyone in the area effect spell. And then one pretty interesting combination that Rich had this game was the Hurricanum and the Shadow Magic. So he was always hitting on +1 because the Hurricanum has that area effect, so he was able to hit my guys for the most part on 2s, and then with Occam's Mindrazor, he was able to wound me on 2s, and then any other debuffs that the Shadow Magic provided, he was really able to mess with my model statistics, and for the most part, the skeletons and the Tomb Guard weren't really that high in terms of weapon skill and strength, so it was a pretty cool combination, that Hurricane and Shadow Magic. So again, this was just my first game with Tomb King, so I figured I'd share it with you guys. So if you have any questions, put some comments below. Anything I did wrong or any suggestions for Tomb Kings, I'm pretty open-minded. Great, thanks guys.